Captain Vexthor had seen many strange things in his 70 cycles of commanding trade routes through the Outer Rim. He had witnessed stars collapse, watched pirates flee from solar storms, and once saw a moon split perfectly in half during a mining accident. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for the moment when the small human freighter raised what could only be described as a limb and moved it back and forth at his vessel. The gesture made no sense. Vexthor's species, the Krell, communicated through color changes in their skin and precise chemical signals. This random appendage movement seemed meaningless, possibly even a malfunction in the human's pressure suit. Yet something about it felt intentional, deliberate, almost friendly. That was 8 years ago. Today, every ship that passed through the threshold station performed the same gesture. From the smallest cargo hauler to the massive Confederation dreadnoughts, every vessel that came within visual range would extend a mechanical arm, a landing strut, or even activate external lights in a sweeping pattern, all because of one human named Marcus Webb. Marcus hadn't meant to start a galactic trend. He was simply doing what humans had done for thousands of years on their homeworld. He saw another ship, and he waved. It was instinct. Muscle memory from a species that had evolved as social creatures who greeted each other across distances. On Earth, you waved to neighbors, to passing cars, to strangers on hiking trails. It cost nothing and meant everything. The Krell captain had been confused at first, but he was also curious. Curiosity was something the Krell understood well. They were scientists and explorers long before they became merchants. So Vexthor did something unusual. He opened a communication channel. Human vessel. This is Captain Vexthor of the trading ship Copper Wind. What was the meaning of your physical gesture? Marcus had laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine warmth. Oh, that? I was just waving hello. It's how we greet people where I'm from. Sorry if it seemed weird. Waving, Vexthor had repeated, testing the unfamiliar word. This is a greeting custom? Yeah, basically. You see someone, you acknowledge them, show you're friendly. It's just nice, you know? Vexthor did not know. The Krell conducted business, exchanged information, negotiated contracts. But greeting strangers in the vast emptiness of space for no practical reason? That was new. That was very human. But Vexthor was old. And the old sometimes understand things the young cannot. He understood loneliness. He understood the weight of silence in the void between stars. And he understood that maybe, just maybe, acknowledging another living being's existence was not so strange after all. Show me how to perform this wave, Vexthor had said. Marcus did, raising his hand several times through his viewport, explaining the motion, the meaning, the simple humanity of it all. Vexthor listened carefully, and when they parted ways, he extended one of his ship's maintenance arms and moved it in that same sweeping motion. It felt awkward, it served no function, but somehow it felt right. The next ship Vexthor encountered, he waved. The captain of that vessel, a Torvin named Slicks, was bewildered. Vexthor explained what he had learned from the human. Slicks found it amusing but oddly charming. When Slicks reached the next port, she mentioned it to other crews. Some laughed, some were confused, but some tried it themselves. Humans, it turned out, had a talent for infectious social behavior. Within months, the wave had spread through 3 sectors. Traders who had encountered humans or heard the story began waving to each other. It became a sign that you were open to communication, that you meant no harm, that you recognized the other ship as more than just another blip on sensors. The Galactic Confederation noticed. They always noticed patterns, especially ones that spread this quickly. A committee was formed to study the phenomenon. Xenopsychologists were consulted. Reports were filed. After 6 months of deliberation, the Confederation issued a statement that the wave gesture was harmless, possibly beneficial to morale, and demonstrated positive interspecies cultural exchange. That bureaucratic blessing somehow made it official. Trading posts began teaching the gesture to new pilots. Flight academies added it to their communications curriculum. Within 2 years, waving had become standard practice in most civilized space lanes. But the real magic happened in the places between. In the lonely stretches where ships might go weeks without encountering another vessel, the wave became something more than greeting. It became proof that you weren't alone, that someone else was out there, fighting the same fight, hauling cargo, transporting passengers, exploring the unknown. When you saw another ship wave, you knew they understood. They saw you. You mattered. Marcus Webb learned about all this 3 years after his initial encounter with Captain Vexthor. He had been running his usual routes, hauling medical supplies and occasionally transporting passengers, when he noticed something odd. Every ship he passed waved, every single one. At first, he thought it was coincidence. Then he thought maybe humans had become more common in this sector. But when a massive Vryn colony ship, a species that didn't even have appendages, activated its running lights in a sweeping pattern as it passed, Marcus realized something bigger was happening. He contacted Threshold Station for information. The docking master, a Krell who happened to be Vexthor's cousin, explained everything. How his simple gesture had spread across dozens of star systems. How it had become a symbol of peace and acknowledgement. How ships now felt wrong if they didn't wave when passing each other. Marcus sat in his pilot's chair for a long time after that conversation, staring out at the stars. He had never considered himself important. He hauled cargo, paid his taxes, tried to be decent to people. He certainly never thought he would change anything. Yet here he was, having accidentally created a tradition that spanned light years. The communication panel chimed. Captain Vexthor himself, now retired and living on Threshold Station, wanted to talk. They spoke for hours. Vexthor explained how the wave had changed him, how it had changed other Krell, how it had changed the entire culture of space travel in subtle but meaningful ways. "You taught us something we didn't know we needed," Vexthor said, his translator software capturing the gratitude in his chemical signals. "You taught us that recognition matters, that seeing and being seen is fundamental. My people are scientists. We measure, we calculate, we understand the physical universe. But you humans understand something else. You understand connection." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He settled for the truth. "I just waved. That's all. It's what we do." "Exactly," Vexthor replied. "It is what you do. And now, it is what we all do." Years passed. The wave became so commonplace that young pilots couldn't imagine space travel without it. There were regional variations now. Some species added their own flourishes. The Torvin would sometimes flash their hull lights in specific patterns. The Vryn created elaborate sweeping motions with their navigation arrays. The humans naturally continued their simple hand wave, though some of the more enthusiastic ones would wave with both hands. Marcus Webb eventually retired, settling on a small colony world where he could see the stars clearly at night. He would sit on his porch and watch the orbital traffic, seeing the lights of ships as they passed each other, each one acknowledging the other with that simple gesture he had once made without thinking. One evening, a young human girl from the neighboring homestead came over with questions for the old spacer. She wanted to know about space travel, about aliens, about whether the stories were true. Marcus told her tales of distant worlds and strange creatures. Near the end, she asked him about the wave. "Is it true you invented it?" she asked, eyes wide with curiosity. Marcus smiled. "No, kid. Humans have been waving for thousands of years. I just showed it to someone who hadn't seen it before. And now everyone does it?" "Now everyone does it." The girl thought about this for a moment. "That's nice," she finally said. "It means nobody's alone out there." Marcus looked up at the stars, watching two ships pass each other in high orbit, their lights sweeping in greeting. "Yeah," he said softly. "I guess that's exactly what it means." In the vast darkness of space, where silence could swallow worlds and loneliness was measured in light years, the simple act of waving had become humanity's greatest export. Not their technology, not their weapons, not their science. Just the basic acknowledgement that someone else existed, that they mattered, that they were seen. And every day, across 1,000 worlds and 10,000 shipping lanes, beings of every imaginable species raised arms, extended appendages, or flashed lights in that same sweeping motion. A gesture that said, without words, "Hello, I see you. Safe travels, friend." All because one human did what came naturally, and one Krell captain was wise enough to ask why.